Hello, everybody. My name is Maja Trochimczyk, and I'm the publisher of Moonrise Press. And I'm very, very thrilled today to present to you this wonderful new book we just published by an amazing person who is accordionist and singer and artist and poet and writer and everything else in between. The most incredible person that I know, Toti O'Brien. Before we get to her book, and what's in it and her reading from it, I would like some our guest poets to read some of the work. So let us start this reading with Lulu Abramian. Lulu, it's your time now.
Hello, everyone. Okay. This is titled Trouble Within. Upon my first arrival on the soil, trouble followed like a turmoil. I called upon him graciously to take the trouble out of me. Affectionately, he replied, "Beyond the stars, you come to life. Heavenly mold, you broke apart. Earth, among mortals, called it home. Becoming someone turned to gold. The being in you got left behind. Eyes increased time and time around, and closed them, soul light with joy. Suck the nectar out of love of your soul. For thousands of years, happy within, you looked for mortality in mortal being." That was one. How many do you read? Okay. This one, never tell. I shall never tell when I have done what I have done today. Of each beloved moment, only whispering wind could tell. I gathered in a coffer, tossed away the key. No need for the sun to shine, and gave life to thee. Bittersweet emotions, the thoughts beyond belief, taste of distinction remained beneath. Illusions of separation escaping my thoughts. Oh, how I wish I would never move from this spot. I shall never tell who I was before, and that I left it all behind. That's, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was lovely. And now I would like to call upon Marie Werner with our second open mic reader.
Hello. So hi, everybody. I see all these familiar faces in here. Hi, Judith, Pat and Dawn, Ellen, Cathabella, Olga. Hi.
We all
Okay, so
friends,
anyway-
aren't we?
What?
We all friends here.
Yes.
Good friends.
Okay, so this piece is called Adjusting. I hear a thump and a flutter as a finch slams into the window. Seeing nothing dead on the patio, I think it survived and flew off. Later, I'm startled by the small corpse lying in an empty basket. I use the basket liner to pick it up. It weighs almost nothing. And I place it out among the potted plants, thinking its fellows would want to know, perhaps to mourn, at least to understand that their comrade is not coming back. An hour later, I wonder if this is macabre. Will they see it as a threat? I once heard that farmers have been known to hang a dead crow in a cherry tree to keep the birds from feasting on the fruit. I go out and rake back the mulch from a corner of a small plot of apartment dweller earth and dig a bird-sized grave. Dumping it into the hole, I'm struck again by its weightlessness. I replace the earth, tamp it down, and rake the mulch back over it. An invisible grave for a weightless creature. Within a half hour, the finches are back, flitting from branch to branch in the ficus tree, pecking seeds from the basil plant. One who was one of them is no longer, and they carry on, as most of us do. And I'll read this. I haven't read in a while. This is called The Gathering. As the sky pales, 10,000 crows begin their evening migration to an island off the shore. Throughout the phases of the sun's slow descent, the sky is filled with the motion of black feathered forms, all pumping toward a common center. The air fills with the urgent joy of their cause. They settle on wires, lampposts, palm trees, scrub trees, bridge railings. No Robert's rules here, all speak at once, as loudly as possible. And all understand. We are here, we are together, we are separate but one. We are crows, we are here. Wingless and solitary below, I wonder at their methods and celebrate their victory. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Marie Werner. Thank you very much. The interesting poetry about crows. I have two poems about crows also. Maybe I read one of them. Crows that are the messengers of fate. Anyway, so now let's go to our wonderful feature. Let's put the book right here. And Toti O'Brien has made the cover, and she wrote the stories over a period of time. And I just want to read from the back cover what Cynthia Anderson, author of Now Voyager and Route, has said about this book. An alphabet of birds encompasses an entire bestiary, from its namesake birds to the squirrel that owns the narrator's backyard, to the bears that own the salmon streams. The ground of these short prose pieces is everyday life, the daily display of splendor. Toti O'Brien invokes a world where what is wry and wise meets what is whimsical and surreal. Questions tumble, pile on top of one another, full of possibilities and speculation. O'Brien's language has a rolling rhythm that unspools like an incantation. Fall under her spell and journey with her into the mysteries of the quotidian. That's Cynthia Anderson, the beautiful quote about Toti's book. And now, without further ado, I'm going to call upon Toti to read for about half an hour the various stories she selected from her brand new book.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you, everybody, for being there. Maya, do you think that it is possible to share the screen? Is that something that we can do? So that we don't hear you anymore, Maya.
Toti, you just share and we'll see if you
No,
can.
she has to allow me. The host needs to give me permission, and maybe she did. I don't know. I can try. No.
No, I have to make you a host. That's Maya. I have to make you a host for that. So let's just do it. I make you a host for now,
Okay.
and then give it back to me afterwards. Where are you? Where are you? You want it here? More. I'll make you a host, and then you can share the screen. Okay?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So share screen. And let me see. This. And if I go here and here, and I say share. Oh, I think I did it. A little.
Yes, you did. Yeah, we see you in the scroll box.
But I widely prefer for you to see the words so that you can forget about my accent or at least bridge over it. Maya showed you the book, and it is there if you look in the screen of Catabella Wilson, which is for those who don't know her, the lady with the flowers. You can see the book on wood because she has the painting. And I want to start from this green and orange. This green and orange is there as a memory of a specific place, which is a citrus orchard. This is not a serious, reliable book of nonfiction or memoir. It is full of foolishness. There are birds, of course, but there are animals that fly and they absolutely shouldn't. There are trees that are cavorting in the sky, no credible things. But today I'm gonna use it as a memoir. I'm gonna use it as a credible text, which it doesn't really is, that it isn't really. But today it will. So here is the citrus orchard. Is the time that it takes to get there. Orange, lemon, and tangerine trees planted in orderly rows filled acres and acres, terracing the hillside overlooking the ocean. They were perfectly groomed, their bed neatly dug, carefully weeded, freed of broken twigs and debris. The soil, velvety and brown, was kept damp, duly and diligently irrigated. Canopies were properly trimmed, all joined in a large green roof. Leaves looked perky, alive. I followed Grandpa for hours as he inspected each trunk, snapping off cocky young sprouts with his knife-sharp fingernail. Those newbies had to be constantly pruned out as they stole lymph from the main branches and nourishment from the fruit. Grandpa's life was one with the orchards, organized around their needs and their miracle. Various harvests at different times of the year for different qualities of citruses could go well, badly, or anything in between. It depended on smart choices, fine adjustments, alertness, and infinite care. We depended upon it. Grandpa died when I turned 13, unexpectedly, but you don't usually get a notice. His last years had been shadowed by threats to the land. The town council wanted to build a mega incinerator on it, remove plants, burn truckloads of garbage instead. Grandpa fought and he momentarily won. But as soon as he died, had the town timed it, perhaps, the entire grove was seized. The new project implied metallurgical factories, but it was a pure scam. Huge sums were allotted and pocketed, and yet nothing was built except for an ugly rectangular foundation scarring Grandpa's gutted heel. Slowly, wild grass submerged it. But the orchards were down in 2 days. Was it less? The trees were abated by tank-like contraptions, and the whole place looked just like a war zone. Thousands of dead trunks were lined up, so many. They could have built a bridge or a railroad spanning from my messy yard to the motherland that I have left behind. Grandpa planted a citrus tree the day I was born, and he gave it my name. Once he formally introduced us. I vaguely recall a grim thing standing in its square of brown hairs besides other grim things, brothers, sisters, cousins. Grandpa planted a tree for each baby. All grandkids were honored. I'm not sure which meaning he gave to the ritual. He was trained as an engineer. He had a practical mind, but he was a fierce nature lover and a sweet, caring soul. I haven't wondered about the fate of my arboreal twin. What does a tree matter when thousands are gone in a blink, when a pair of gathered hills is all that is left? So that was what happened to the citrus orchard who actually existed. And it is a kind of a sad story, like many others. I think it's a bit the cycle of things. No? Trees get destroyed by fire, as we know very well, or by greed and men. And then what do? We start over. So I'm gonna jump around to another story. I recall my very first act of plantation. I decided to sacrifice my bright yellow bucket, the one matching my little shovel. Oh well, they were beach toys and precious at that, but August and sea season were on the wrap. Not clear yet about cycles, not quite sure summer would return. I was happy to repurpose my things, as Grandpa suggested, to allow such a fantastic game. I put sand mixed with richer soil in the bucket, pushed it down, leaving room for water, seemed wasted, but Grandpa was adamant. With my thumb, I pierced a hole in the middle. Grandpa said, "Well, approximately deep," he said, but my thumb was short. "Deep," he said, and he inserted his pinky. "It would still be my geranium," he said. "Now go pick a stem from one of the thickest bushes." I came back with a branch worth of luscious red blossoms, proud like a new bride, and leaving a bloody trail of petals behind me. "A stem," Grandpa shouted, "small and without flowers." I was disappointed. I picked one and it looked discolored, sad. But I stuck it into the hole and I pressed the soil around it and I watered again. Too much water will kill it. Then I left for town in order to start kindergarten. On the phone, I kept asking, "How's my geranium?" "It's tall," Grandpa said. "Fine, a beauty, grows taller and taller." So now I'm gonna tell you why the girl with the yellow bucket loved geraniums that much. She really did. As you can see, I'm jumping all the way to another story, which has nothing to do really, 5 senses. But there are the geraniums. There's a graveled road, and this is actually in the citrus orchard, that same citrus orchard. They are walking up the graveled road, leading from the gate to the house, a straight, dusty lane where they like to linger. Now and then Grandpa stops to detach dead flowers and leaves from the geranium shrubs bordering the path. The plants are overgrown, juxtaposing in chaos and profusion. She adores geraniums. Each bush blooms in a slightly different color. The entire red spectrum is there, and you wouldn't believe how many variations exist. The Inuit have 11 definitions for snow. She has more for red. When such a great palette strips under her sight, her eyes pick a favorite. Her eyes usually put the things they like in a sequence going from pretty to marvelous. What a blast is moving from caramel peach to queen cherry, through rose ballerina, pink fairy, crimson fire, and strawberry moon. It is shifting from happiness to bliss to the maximum currently available ecstasy. A lot, but she can manage it. She hasn't overdosed yet. The other senses don't act like her sense of sight. She's not compelled to choose favorite songs, food, smells, or wool sweaters. Those things are more equal. About songs, she doesn't prioritize among those grandfather belts out when he's stuck in traffic. First he finger drum on the wheel as if he were mad. Then his booming voice detonates. Half a stanza, a fragment of chorus, whatever he picks makes her happy. Does he sing in tune? Hard to tell. She should know the tune, and she doesn't. Is he a tenor, bass, baritone? Her musical jargon is poor, not a lot of subtleties. She only has achieved those for color. Years later, when she'd know the difference, there will be no way to play back. Her ears won't remember Grandpa's pitch accuracy, not even his range. She will wish her listening organs were better conceived, larger storage areas, perhaps. Grandpa teaches in songs. He's homeschooling her, right? In songs, yes, for several reasons. First, he must have realized how much his voice pleases her. Although he watches the road, he says he escorts her smile out of the corner of his eye. Strange. Eyes don't have corners. She draws perfect circles with long, starred lashes. But it's true that his voice makes her smile, sometimes laugh, and therefore, Grandpa's teaching this fun a wonderful game. Foot glued upon the brake, he sings the multiplication table while they creep like snails on a cabbage leaf. He has set the entire thing in duet form. As he intones the question, she chirps the reply. They go from 1 times 1 to 10 times 10, 100. The top limit looms higher than the sky. Once she memorized up to 100, she'll have reached eternity. How nice of Grandfather to hand down such a precious tool. She is eager to acquire it, still working on it, ironing a few kinks and wrinkles, a blurred little spot between 7s and 9s. So Grandpa teaches things about botanics, geraniums, planting, and useful scholar curriculum, but I want to jump to a totally different stories because I'm gonna give a snippet or a different thing that it teaches, something about perhaps danger, perhaps not. I was feeling a creeping sadness of the subtlest of things, creeping, subtle, like one of those little snakes Grandpa showed me when I was a child. Those he pointed at to teach me what a snake was, to acquaint me with them, and hence prevent fear. Those snakes qualified for the job, though barely longer than worms. You would not want to touch them, of course, and they wouldn't let you, but you couldn't be frightened, no way. Sadness, just the blade of it, crept on me like a snake so small, so irrelevant, it could be called domestic, a pet. But it doesn't stop there. It was sadness that made me talk, pushing up the next trivia. Because sadness had widened a bit, not to the size of a dangerous snake, not yet. By the way, there weren't many dangerous snakes, Grandpa said. Almost none of them. Size did matter. Even though so long they spread across the path like a wavering bridge I had to overcome, were pacific. Even those thick as a shovel handle should not preoccupy me. They lived their life. They were loners. They didn't want to acquaint me. They detested interacting. They were scared of me, believe it or not. I should stay put, let them pass, be quiet, make no noise. They would not harm me if they didn't feel attacked. No, I could befriend snakes if I kept my distance. The only ones I should fear were vipers, those short fellows with bifurcated tongues, very easy to spot. Even they were okay though, if I left them alone. But enough of snakes. Enough of snakes. What do you think? Should we? I think we should go back to geraniums. There is so more about geraniums with the passing of seasons. Here. It's the same road. They are walking the gravelled road leading from the gate to the house. Fall has started, but the weather is still pretty warm. She isn't schooled yet, other than in songs, hence she isn't forced to live. She will, at some point. Here's a birthday gift, Grandpa says. How so? Her birthday is in the very middle of winter. By then she will be gone, so here's both her an early present. She will carry it in a suitcase, a memory of Grandpa and summer, as if it were needed. He hands a package to her, oblong, tightly wrapped in brown paper and tied with a string. It feels like a roast. Is it meat? Guess, he says. Yet another game to fill the long straw. Grandpa never wastes time. Here, he stops to free stubborn geraniums of their dead appendages. If he cleans them, they will give more flowers, he states, as if his mere diligence could forever prolong the season. They linger. He hops on top of the wall to reach the orange trees hovering above them. With his thick thumbnail, he gets rid of unwelcome sprouts, sucking lymph the main branches need. He never wastes time. So then this grandpa, dies, and you know how. I already told you. And that's okay. The man goes, we all do. But memory stays. Decades later, the scent of geraniums comes back. On a bus, perhaps the underground of this or that town, abroad always. It is not in her nostrils, it is in her brain, and it's sharp, distinctive, but there's no flower around. Once she inhales it from the skin of her lover, her first loving one. More casual encounters smelled usual. It does not. She tells him, but not very insistently, unsure about how he take it. Of course, is not wearing perfume. By the way, no perfume is made out of those plants, but a trace of that unmistakable fragrance is all over his body. As she notices it, she doesn't remember the roadside, the bushes. Too much time has passed, or else not enough. Then she does. The scent must have been on Grandpa's fingers, stuck under his nails. She recalls, yes, the velvety leaves of geraniums. She smells velvet like skin under fingers and the lingering road summer ending. Grandpa long dead, still blooming, still blooming. And I'm gonna end with one more, which is the very last piece of this entire alphabet. And it tells things that by now you know by heart. You know them all. I gave them all to you. So it's just like a summary. You recognize it and him. Gardener's companion. As my mind floats above my body underneath, bent, accordion folded, performs its own rituals. A tight pinch, a brisk yank, and I toss the weeds I just pulled into the trash can, while the smell of green reaches my neurons like a familiar touch, a caress. Smell of green that is so disparate from the color, so unfresh, thick and muddy. This smell truly is brown. Now I breathe it in from my fingers, and identity snaps at me like a cool breeze sneaking under the sheets, like a pleasant chill waking me up. This is I, say my nostrils, meaning I am you. I do what you always did, my fingers having held yours long enough to learn the trade by infusion, skin to skin. When I almost unconsciously bend to manicure Mother Earth, grooming her as you did until your last day, with me tottering at your side. Yes, you combed Mother Earth, beautifying it with small and decisive gestures, as you might have dusted and swept the luxurious hall of a palace. When I gather my body in a fist, a jack in the box, ready to spring back, then ball up again to catch another parasite growth. I feel rooted, firmly attached to you, meaning to the past, to all who ever lived. And the scent that hems me, rims me, and berings me is a lingering sweat of love I don't want to rinse. Is the aftermath of an embrace I want to be indelible. It is a good humor. It's the secret that makes me sing. And I think I'm gonna close it here.
Wow, thank you.
You're
Thank
very
you,
welcome.
thank you.
You're very
Now,
welcome.
Toti, if you return the hosting to me, then I'll
Let's see how can I do that.
let me see, maybe I can do it. No, you pick on my name on a list and then make me host. I think it's a host. I cannot do it anymore.
How can I go back to the big screen if I click on it?
Click on participants list. It'll show up on the side.
Let me see.
And the share screen has to be out.
Make host, change host, make Maya the meeting host. Yes.
Yes.
I did it.
Yes. Very good.
Wonderful.
Okay. Oh, we have Olga is coming in, which is late. I'll admit her. And Teresa Ruelas. You know Teresa? Teresa Ruelas?
I don't know her, no.
You don't know her?
No.
Well, I don't know her either. So I'm sorry, but I will not like screen. Yes. Sorry about that, but that's the way it is. Okay, now Toti, more stop. Oh, I don't know. Oh, there you are. I was wondering how we can get rid of the short screen. That was so amazing. And just showed me a new dimension of the book, because I thought about those stories as unrelated stories, and you showed it's like a novel. It's a memoir. It's an elegy for a grandpa. It's an elegy for the past. It's a very beautiful things remembered book. So I think that if I would like to unmute everybody for now to have comments and discussion of your book, maybe questions from everybody, so we could all participate in a conversation. Okay, where is this? Ask to unmute. I'm asking everybody to unmute so we can have everybody talking and commenting about your beautiful stories about grandpa and how you learn to garden and how you learn to appreciate the growth of nature. When you're reading the story from page 150, when the snakes and your grandpa appear, it was a meeting with a hermit in a hermitage, right? And the hermit with the axe showed the narrator where he prayed by the hermit falls, which was right really inside the hut. So it's an amazing story, because you think a man with an axe met in the wilderness seems to be dangerous. On the other hand, you describe this whole encounter as a mystery of falling in love almost with a stranger who is so amazing, and it feels like this man is magical, has this aura of something that's kind of hides in his eyes, the blue of unspoken hue. So it's really quite amazing. And there's many stories like that where you don't know where you're going, and you start the story and you follow you along the pages. You don't know where you're going to end up. Some of them are different. I was, the narrator who introduced the book, Cynthia Anderson, mentioned the bear. So there's a great story of a bear eating salmon and not eating the actual salmon that we like to eat, but they're eating the brains and eggs and all the stuff and throwing it all out, and how wasteful of the bear. So there is this kind of aspect of interacting with wildlife. So I think that's it's quite magical, the book, and I hope you have good reviews when it goes to be reviewed. And if you have a reviewer, maybe somebody from this group would like to write something for California State Poetry Society Poetry Letter, we have a quarterly publication, which is not the California Quarterly, which doesn't have book reviews, but Poetry Letter, which is just electronic only. But still, we want to start putting book reviews in there because there's few options for book reviews for poetry and related topics. So for anybody else would like to have a comment and say something to Toti about the book?
Yeah.
I would like to make a comment. I have read the book. I finished it only recently, and I so enjoyed having the voice to go with the stories, and also, Toti, the way that you tied the different parts together. Yeah, I've just been very moved by, in different ways, by all these different stories. But I was particularly that one, Five Senses. I just developed such a love for the grandfather. So I was really glad that you tied those pieces together about your grandfather. Very beautiful.
Yeah.
Well,
Mei Ling? Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, I totally agree with what Maria is saying. Was a very beautiful experience for me, and I feel that even though that I missed your poetry reading yesterday, yeah, but I mean, I know some of your poems, and so I could understand. To me, that it's the poetry and the prose make a whole picture of your acute senses and your love for nature. That now I understand. Okay, so how could you be so like a kin? You have a very acute kinship with nature, not just with the plants, but also with animals and with all kinds of things, with phenomena around us. And so this makes me understand, okay, so this is like your bio-poetry, and that's cultivated into you, from a very young age. So it's almost like you're a really fine instrument, and that's keep tuning and tuning and tuning. And your father, your grandfather, he was the first tuner. And so he shaped you, and he teaches you to, to understand the world and to understand yourself and to understand him. And so I saw that I was very impressed with the present tense that you use, for this prose. And so it's like, now he's still around. He is. I mean, that's one of your tales that you're talking about. That, since that I'm Chinese, and so in the Chinese language, there's no tense. Time, there's no tense. And so in a way that by your choice of the present tense, I could feel that, just timelessness. When you evoke him, grandpa is here.
yeah, thank
So
you.
very moving experience for me, and also listening to you perform the poetry reading. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, yeah. I believe very strongly that when there is an adult, any adult, who you happen to find that takes the time to share a positive experience with a child about anything. I mean, about nature is very important, but that could have been about books or about, painting.
Yeah.
When this happens at an early age, we get this extraordinary gift that keeps blooming forever, like the geraniums. And I didn't realize until when I finished this book that actually it was an act of gratitude for the person who had given me such gift without having to, just
Yeah,
by generosity.
that's beautiful. Any more comments? Do we have anybody else? We got a chat comment from Judith Terzi. That it was a delightful reading. So I thought it was delightful because I actually looked away from the screen because I enjoyed your own voice so much. in hearing it, and the accent and everything. It's because I have an accent. It's a different accent, but you know, it's so nice. It's your personality with your accent. It's the whole person, and then to hear your own words that we work on together to put them for print, and then to hear it with your own voice, it's just magical experience. All right. So if is anybody else would like to say something? If not, we'll move to Casabella for maybe presentation. Casabella has a painting, so I hope, Casabella, you have a poem to read for us.
Well, but I wanted to say, Toti, that I
Uh-huh.
love the psychological content of your writing and the strength that came through from your grandfather as an example of what was instilled in you. Even more than the love of nature was the strength of yourself, that you were able to make that geranium just be fine, you know, and it meant so much to you when you held it up and put it in the ground, and of course it's fine and it's growing tall. It's almost like it was you yourself growing. You are the geranium as well, and he gave you that confidence that of course you're fine, of course you're strong and growing well. So I could feel that. I don't think I'll ever forget that moment. It's almost like I was there. And all your writing has that great psychological content that really, really moves me, and very intimate and real.
Thank you.
So
Yes. Thank you very much for the comment. And I would like to read something, actually. I have a couple poems inspired by nature, which were written after I read Toti's book. They are poems, but they're also narrative. And I thought that I share them with you because I was inspired by the way Toti is so observant of all those little things that happen around her, and that are happening in the garden, in the house. You see through the kitchen window, all these strange things that the birds do. So let me read you two of my poems. One is inspired actually by a raccoon in my garage. A drink of water. The forest is on fire. A raccoon knows how to stay alive. He has moved into my garage. He ate a box of candles I kept for emergencies on the counter, licked clean a plastic plate with a melted one, stuck away in a corner. I see muddy footprints on the washing machine. He walked across to get a drink of water at the sink, left the faucet slightly open with water dripping. I have to teach him how to close it fully, not waste the precious white gold in a desert. My next door neighbor heard the noise, came over to look one night, banging on the garbage bins in my driveway. I don't want my resident raccoon to be shot with a black, dead-looking gun, a pistol from my neighbor's shelf, kept, just in case, by the door. My raccoon has moved back into my garage. It was his country before I came from Canada in the 90s, before the house was built in 1948, before an artificial lake flooded the plain of the ancient riverbed in 1910, before an orange grove was planted here in the 1880s. 2 world wars, a Cold War, and a war on terror later, a raccoon, my raccoon, has moved back into my garage. I have to teach it how to fully close the tap for the faucet to stop dripping, wasting the precious white gold of water in a desert, water in my home, water in his home, water. So that was the raccoon in my garage, which was really funny. I took a picture of the muddy footprints, but I let the door of the garage open for the night. One night I figured he's going to get hungry and there's no food. He ate a cardboard box or part of it, and besides the candles. So I figured you should just go away and find a better place to live. There's still water in our river outside, and there's a pond, so there's places for the raccoon. And the second poem from the same vein, written after I worked on Toti's book, is On Being a Bird. A flock of birds alighted in my garden. Smaller than sparrows, they chase each other from tree to tree, branch to branch, chattering incessantly in the ultraviolet voices. My ears fill with a sonic kaleidoscope, almost above the audible range. They will rest and fly away, satiated with shreds of rose petals, bits of a ripening peach, shared with red house finches that visit at noon. They grow quiet at the cawing of a crow or meowing of a stray cat that passes through on its errands and leaves my winged visitors to their own devices. Would I be happy as a bird? I see wings in flight, lightness, music. I forget hidden dangers lurking in the sky, among dense overgrown branches. I forget rains and the plight of modern subdivisions without trees, built by those who love only one hue of green, and it is not of plants, not of my planetary church of plants that I founded 8 years ago, alone in my garden, with the sun and air and earth and water. I took an oath of a caretaker. No toxins, no taps, just green, verdant green, greening. This is our home to share, our vibrant garden of daily nourishment and joy. So these are two poems for you, inspired by the poetry and insight of our beautiful feature today. And do we have any more poets who would like to read something for us? No? Okay. Maybe we have comments from anybody. Oh, I wanted to say,
read.
yeah,
Yes,
you read?
and
Okay, go for it. Go
okay,
for it. Yeah.
explain. So I have this piece of art, wonderful piece of art for Toti, from Toti. It hasn't gotten a poem yet, but it will. Or more than one, I'm sure, because I have many poems that I've written inspired by Toti's art. And so I thought I'd read two. One of them is has prose and poem, Tonka prose, and it was written on the tea house collage that you put.
I remember that.
Yeah, we've had Toti's work in our living room gallery. That's what this is. And Toti had several shows in our home. And this was one, there are many, so I have many poems. And so Moving Day is inspired by the tea house. And Rick is going to play a bird flute appropriately.
How appropriately. Wow. There's a bird. How cute. Very lovely.
Of a Native American flute modeled on real instruments of Native Americans from the early 20th century. And these are not, they're more robust than the modern meditational sounds you'd expect from a Native American flute. So I'm going to stand way back because it's loud.
All right.
See me play. All right.
Yeah,
it's easy to play. It's a duck flute. Anyone can make a sound, a whistle flute.
Nice. Wow.
And I'll accompany. But one interesting thing about it is these original instruments, not the modern copies, are very loud on a low note. So I'll stand further back.
So I feel both of these poems are garden poems. The first one, when I looked at the tea house, it reminded me and brought me into the tea house at the Japanese garden. And remembering the story of our 95-year-old host of the poets' meetings there, who, when he was a young man, had his honeymoon in the tea house. His parents owned that land, and that's where it was. So this is called Moving Day. It was a romantic day when I finally moved into the tea house. After many visits, I had a quiet mind. My bags were full of leavings. One by one, I dropped them into the stream that ran past by the hedge. There, soon, even the future would flow by. I drank deeply from the basin by the entrance, the taste of now. I listened. A soft rustling. I know the tea house is made of white herons and bamboo.
Thank you.
The next one is inspired by Toti's painting Descanso. That's some of you may have seen. It's a beautiful, unusual painting, very evocative and yet abstract, but it's an image that comes from her experience at Descanso Gardens. And this one was honored by the Science Fiction Poetry Association. And so it made me really happy that it came from Toti, because I think Toti really spans the most intimate, natural things and takes them really into the future in a surreal way. So both things are embodied in her work. It's called The Green. It was a tree, becomes a song, a table, leaf after leaf, opening. We sit around its absence as it floats on memory. Shapeshifter becomes dream catcher, an escape hatch, small carved windmills turning very fast. We pull up small stumps, polished, clean. Congress of Earthlings, considering the revival of green. We fall asleep in different languages.
Beautiful, beautiful, very beautiful, Katabal. Thank you, very beautiful.
Thank you very much. I thought it would be really nice for Toti to be wrapped in words of the friends and poets. So we had two poets before you, two poets after, but you are the centerpiece of today's reading. For anybody who is a friend and who would like to get the books, you can get them with big discounts, which basically at cost of printing. And I will order some more for Toti because yes, oh, you already have the book, yay! So and then afterwards, whenever the books are sold online, whenever anybody buys them, we split the net revenue 50-50, whatever Lulu pays out or from the various venues where the book is posted. So I think that would be very nice to say goodbye now to the recording. Thank you very much, and we can stay on privately to talk a little bit more if you'd like. All right. So thank you very much, all participants. Thank you very much, Toti, for the amazing book. Thank you, Casabella, for buying the artwork and for writing about Toti work and promoting her art and her poetry, because Toti is an amazing talent, and definitely we should all help promote her. People should know her work because she's just such a stunning artist in every single way.
My daughter loves Toti's work too, and her husband and their child love her work, and they say she's going to be very famous.
Oh yeah,
Well,
in another life.
that's what I think too. You're going to be very famous because you're incredibly
In
talented.
life, clearly. This life I'm done.
Yeah, so let's contribute to Toti's fame and all share the information and the talents. And thank you so very much, everybody. I'll stop the recording right now. Thank you.